I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
That's Donald Trump, threatening to create a dangerous situation that could have ended up like a similar incident that occurred 50 years ago this spring. No one tells this story better than two great journalists, Linda Ellerbe and the late Ray Gandolf.
It's about time. Tonight, 40 Days of Spring, 1970. Here are Linda Ellerbe and Ray Gandolf.
For the next hour, think of your television set as a time machine.
Bring along your scrapbook and 17 years worth of memories.
Welcome to our world. It's spring of 1970, and this is a program about two revolutions. The one that seemed about to happen and the one that did happen. Revolutions usually come from poverty. This one seemed to be coming from a generation that was mostly well-fed and now seemed to be turning violent.
We didn't like each other very much in the spring of 1970. We didn't like the radicals who declared a private war against the United States. They frightened us. But our government's response frightened us too. It included spying and slander, and at Kent State, homicide.
Tonight, American and South Vietnamese units will attack the headquarters for the entire communist military operation in South Vietnam.
Nixon is bringing some American soldiers home, but his invasion of Cambodia to get at communist sanctuaries is seen as dramatically expanding the war.
The invasion of Cambodia is too much. The campuses here at home explode in protest. Ohio, Kent State University. Some students burn the ROTC building. The National Guard is called in to restore order. But most of the students are peaceful, and the presence of the National Guard outrages them. They get even madder when President Nixon calls student protesters bums.
You know, you see these bums, blowing up the campuses. Listen, the boys that are on the college campuses today are the luckiest people in the world.
Joe Lewis is a freshman at Kent State University.
I was not a bum. I was an 18-year-old American, fully aware of how lucky I was to be going to a university in America where your freedoms are guaranteed.
Lawrence Schaefer is not a student. He is a 26-year-old sergeant in the Ohio National Guard.
We were in there to enforce the law and order. We weren't really trained for that. We were trained for combat.
Noon, Monday, May 4th. Students hold a rally, many of them unaware the rally has been forbidden. The guardsmen are ordered to break up the rally. The background sounds you hear are the actual sounds recorded that day. Another student, Barry Levine, is there with his girlfriend, Allison Krause. They hear the order to disperse.
And the students reacted with more chants and a refusal to disperse. And then the guard started to move forward.
The guardsmen chase students away from the university common. The method, tear gas. Among the last students to get away, Barry Levine and Allison Krause. Now the troops are on a practice football field. There is a fence on 3 sides. Guardsmen feel boxed in. From the adjacent parking lot, students jeer and taunt the guardsmen. Some, a few, throw rocks.
I remember how, it was a light-colored brick. It was and just a half one, and it smacked. I heard a crack, and I thought, sure, my arm was broke. And that's when we decided, that enough's enough.
And so Sergeant Schaefer and a few other guardsmen kneel and point their weapons at the students.
I could not conceive that why they were pointing rifles. These are clearly military weapons. These are unarmed students.
Perhaps the point is made. After 15 minutes, the National Guard retreats. 2,000 students are watching.
I thought that that it was over. And at that point, there were cheers, in a sense. I think the students, certainly myself and Allison, felt that there was a small victory there.
They were cheering. They had won. They were sending us back. At that point, we got over the crest of the hill, and there was a single shot.
Joe Louis is standing 60 feet away.
3 of them, I remember, turned in unison, all turned the same direction and pointed their guns at me.
The guy on my right fired a shot. Well, it was impossible to hear what was going on. Maybe the order had been given, fire warning shots. The guy on my right fired, so I figured, well, if he's firing, they must have given the order. I fired in the air.
The first sound of it, I thought, well, they're firing their blanks. Immediately, I noticed at my feet there were puffs of dirt and cement from the sidewalk I was standing on, flying up into the air. I realized then that these guns had live ammunition.
Although a photograph seems to show Joe Louis standing still, Sergeant Schaefer believes Louis is coming at him.
I felt, not knowing, you know, that if this person was going to inflict harm on us or myself, I had to use what abilities I had to stop this person.
I was standing still, giving him the finger. I was 18 and arrogant and foolish.
I fired at him. I assumed that I hit this person because he did drop.
I was shot. I don't remember saying, oh my God, they shot me, but someone near me at the time said that that's what they heard me say.
In 13 seconds, 67 shots are fired, all of them by the National Guard.
As we ran, we ducked behind a car. Actually, I ducked behind the car, and Allison fell behind the car because by then she had been hit in the back with a bullet. And I didn't realize that for several seconds. She was on her back, and she was more or less calling to me that she had been hit. And for a few seconds that doesn't register because she didn't believe that there was live ammunition in those guns, but it was clear that she was shot badly and she was losing consciousness. And I was helpless, holding her in my arms, watching her bleed to death.
On the way to the hospital, Allison Krause dies. She is 19. 3 other students, Jeffrey Miller, Sandra Scheuer, and William Schroeder, are also dead. 9 students are wounded.
Teach your children well, 'cause their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they picks, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, 'cause if they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
The reason Trump utilized military police had nothing to do with protecting life and property. He did it so that he could pose for a picture. Let that sink in.
Stand in front of St. John's and hold a Bible.
So I was already stunned and shocked and deeply, deeply offended that they had taken what had become holy ground and had been holy ground for 200 years.
We must realize that this could have turned deadly in a split second and highlighted the danger this administration poses for the United States.